Cool, we're already recording. Trying to figure out how can I add. Okay, where would I go for, set. This is my second time using Zoom, and I'm still trying to figure everything out. Where would I? Hi. I don't, yeah.
I always forget that I need to join the actual audio.
Yeah. I was trying to find, like, because there's usually a button. Like, last time when I interviewed Iwanda, I was, like, waiting, and it was, like, 3 minutes. And I was, like, trying to figure out, like, this is my first time hosting. I'm usually with my professors. They host. And I'm like, all right, there's a button. And then it was, like, never there. And then it saw her the whole time waiting. I was like, oh, let me accept that.
Yeah, it's so weird with Zoom, but I think they're doing it because of all the craziness that's going on with people like, what is that, breaking into the Zooms? Because normally you don't have to enable a waiting room. So I've been doing that, not knowing that I'm doing it. I'm like, why do I always have to wait for somebody to get here to allow them to come in? So I totally get it. No worries.
Because I was like, this is like, I made this private because like every time I interview, so like making it like live, like people can zoom in because this is actually for my project. So what I'm going to do is edit it, because what I do is like I'm recording the thing. So because I usually have like all my camera equipment, but I'm recording the thing so I can edit. So I have like the certain questions and your perspective, and how Zoom did it was pretty cool. Like it goes back and forth. So like where like now you see yourself and then you see me, you know what I mean?
Right. Based off of who's talking, right?
Yeah, it goes off like that. It's kind of cool how it's set up. I use Final Cut Pro, so like that's how my thing.
Oh, okay, nice.
All right, well, first I want to introduce myself. My name is Hadassah. Everyone calls me Das. I'm probably gonna end up like changing my nickname for like when I'm about to create my own. It's like that's my stranger name. Like I worked in a PR agency. They all called me Das, and their social media was like my nickname. So I said, I guess so. Keep it my nickname. So like my legal name, just keep it on the college diploma. You know what I mean? So
okay.
I'm from New Jersey. I go to school in West Virginia. I studied abroad this past fall, so I'm a senior in college. I studied abroad. I lived in Salzburg, Austria for 4 months. PR major, communications major as well. Basically, this is a senior project. I wanted to do a perspective in journalism, but talking to Black travelers. And since I had like that traveling bug, I always been watching everyone else's Instagram posts. I've been following you like since like before I studied overseas. So I wanted to have some creative content and like made sure, like I'm just very interested in places to go. You know what I mean? So I always look to that, and like being by myself the first time, like going outside, I was scared, but I've been always
I was and it's Austria.
Yeah, and I'm so used to being outside of my comfort zone, being raised. So like being Black, I didn't really see color. You know what I mean? You just gotta like, I always say like pray up, but be smart at the same time.
Right.
And especially like looking at everyone else I followed, it just like motivated me to keep going.
Right.
So pretty much the objectives for this interview, we'll be discussing your world traveling experience as a Black traveler, your social media influencing, creative content, perspective in traveling, and thoughts traveling after COVID-19 lifts up. The first question will be introduce yourself for everybody.
Right. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Martinique Lewis. Everybody calls me Marty. All my social handles are Marty SanDiego. It's always funny because people are like, that's not your last name. And I'm like, no, I'm like Carmen SanDiego. But then I realized that she was only in America. So only Americans get it, but that's okay. I am a diversity and travel consultant, as well as a travel influencer and content creator. And I'm super happy just to be talking to you today, like for real. It's exciting.
I'm sorry. I really appreciate this. I was like nervous. It's like every time I DM, I was like just trying to DM, and then like when Orlando reached out back, and then you reached out, I was like excited, and then like keep going to have Onika, and so I was like, this is awesome and stuff because it doesn't hurt to just ask. You know what I mean? I wanted to keep it short and sweet. The second question would be, what made you start traveling?
So I've been traveling since I was very, very young. I come from a family where half of them are from Panama, and then my mother was like an avid traveler from the age of about 25. So we were born into literally traveling, whether it was going back home to Panama or whether it was we're going to see our family across on the other side of the country. And then I was very much so like you when I was a senior and well, a junior going to be a senior in college. I studied abroad also, and I studied abroad in London. And that's what really sparked my love for travel because as you know, once you're in Europe, there's so many different places that you're exposed to because of cheap flights, the ability to be able to go, 3 hours on a flight and be in completely different country. So that's when I really, really understood that there's so many different cultures and people, and the accessibility to travel was heightened even more so since then.
Well, what encouraged you to start writing and blogging to create content as a travel writer?
Um, so I'm not necessarily a travel writer. But I do create content. The biggest thing for me was I saw the lack of representation, and I just decided like somebody has got to start saying something. Somebody has got to start doing something. And I was like, who better than me? And I had no experience and it didn't matter. But, I was following different Black travel movements online. And I think for the past 5 years, so many people can attest their travel experiences to social media because of the things that we have been able to see on social media. Just like if I didn't know you, but I saw you in Austria, I'd be like, what the hell? Like a Black person in Austria, I want to go. And then I'm going down the rabbit hole, looking at all of your profile to see the things you did, saving it out, sharing it with other people. But yeah, that's how I got started. I just realized that there was a lack of representation where I didn't see myself. And I was like, this is
Yeah.
a problem. And then I started working for a Black travel movement called Black Travel Journey. And once I saw the influence of Black Travel Journey, I was like, oh, this is like something very, very serious. And then I stopped working for Black Travel Journey, and now I'm over at Nomad's Tribe, which I've been for about 2 years. And it has even more like multiplied, has even more heightened my interest because I see on a daily basis what Black travelers want, what Black travelers don't want, the places that they're interested in, the type of things they're interested in doing when they're in those places. I've been able to report back to tourism boards and travel brands and been able to say, like, I'm firsthand in this community. This is what we're talking about. This is what we want. So yeah, that's what really sparked me. Just the lack of representation I saw. I didn't see myself anywhere. And then I just took off running. I've never stopped.
Yeah, that's cool. And it also runs in the third question, like what encouraged you to also wanted to become a social media influencer?
Yeah. So initially I didn't think of it as an influencer at all. Like I thought influencing was cool, and I was like, oh my God, like they can just travel the world. But then I started realizing like sometimes social media is fickle, right? And I was like, okay. And I was like, so do followers matter to you, or does your message matter to you? And do followers matter to you more than it matters of who follows you? So my thing was like, I've never been in it for the numbers, but I do notice the type of people who follow me, because then that's how much of an impact I know that I'm having. I'm like, if Onika the traveler follows me, I know I'm having an impact because she's one of the top people in the Black travel movement. So, and even if somebody like you, a student, is following me, I know that I'm making an impact because this is something directly related to what you have to do every single day or what you're
Yeah.
interested in. So that matters to me more than the actual numbers. But then once I realized that people felt the exact same way that I did, or then once I realized that there are other people in different demographics, whether it's blind travel, Muslim travel, plus size travel, who also felt left out, then I realized like, okay, this is something that I'm going to do, that I'm committed to doing it. I don't care if anybody likes it, loves it, shares it, comments on it. This is what I feel like I've been destined to do. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna set myself out to be some boards and travel brands who are also interested in that narrative or changing the narrative. So yeah, that's really what happened. It wasn't something where I woke up and I was like, ooh, I want to be a travel influencer. It's just something that like ended up happening through my travels. And I think all the time anyways, like I want people to always know, like, influence has nothing to do with numbers as much as it has to do with engagement. And before being an influencer was even a thing, people are always very inspired by the way that I traveled. So I'm like, oh, we've been doing this. You know what I mean? Like, been. So yeah, it wasn't something that I thought about doing. It was just something that kind of happened. And I don't even think, I think in the beginning I used to call myself an influencer, but then I like quickly got away from that. And I just was like a content creator, because that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm putting out content for people who can identify with what I'm talking about. So, yeah.
Totally, and I totally agree with that. I worked in a PR agency this summer, and I was like in charge as PR and photographer, and the other girls were influence marketer assistants. So they had to find influencers and connect them to our clients. And then I'm seeing like this, like it was either they were looking at more of the followers and the message. Because me, I was always both, but also I was also the message, because that's the point. And so like I'm a big plus size girl and also student athlete who studied abroad. So I did an opportunity, especially being Black. It was just like, you know, I mean, like they didn't tell us, like no one ever told us how much walking you're gonna do and climbing and the stairs. I was like, oh my God. But as a big person, like you just have to be in shape.
Follow the post that tells you that, you know, that's like, oh no, there are 93 stairs to get to this, instead of you just showing me the beautiful picture at the end. You know, it's like, no, like I always say, if you are influencing people, you know, because you can sell things for one, but you also know because so many people will just accredit you when they're going to places. Like, I listened to what you said and I did this, you know, and it's like, how much influence do you really have? Is it based off of the likes of your pictures, or based off of how many people go to a place because they saw you do it first? So I love to see that direct influence. So yeah, I'm totally with you. The message for sure.
All right. Our next question would be, were there places that you absolutely fell in love with, like the food, people, and learning the cultures?
This is a hard question because
I
whenever
feel like for a
come
traveler,
back
it's hard.
whenever I come back with somebody, people are like, how did you like it? I'm like, I loved it. They're like, you say that about everything. And I'm like, you're right. But I'm just
So
like,
broad
it's
on the
because
question.
I literally,
Huh? Let's go
Yeah,
broad on the question. Then, like,
yeah.
were there like when you travel, you love meeting new people, but especially the culture. So let's talk about like the locals. How's the locals experience when you go traveling?
Is Roatan, Honduras. I'm absolutely in love with Roatan. I started going there maybe 2 years ago, and it's a small island. The cruise ships come there, so the majority of their income actually happens because of tourism. So of course I've been checking on them now because nobody can get in and out. But they're called Garifuna, and you can find different pockets of Garifuna communities throughout Central and South America. There's like 5 countries that have them. And so one side of the island is full of Garifuna people. The other side of the island is like very touristic, but I've been there 4 times now and I love it. Absolutely love it. And, you know, I have friends there, and it's just one of those things where it's like I connect with the people there because I see their hustle and I see their grind, and it's like, it's so pure and it's not jaded by anything. And I just love it. And I think the second place, would definitely be Belize. Belize is like a Roatan to me, where again there's Garifuna community there as well, and just to connect with people who look like you, even though they might speak a different language or they have different customs, like that blows everything out of the water. And then my favorite place is London, just period. So I have had the London bug since I was 20 years old, and 21 years old, and yeah, ever since then I just have never looked back. But yeah, those smaller places where I can really connect with the community, where everybody knows your name, where everybody's excited when they hear you're coming into town, and you eat and you cook with people. But one place that was surprisingly awesome was also Billings, Montana, which I visited last October, and was not expecting to see anybody who looked like me, was not expecting there to be any restaurants, and there was. And the most powerful part about that trip was that the tourism board could see how I was interacting with the minorities in Billings, and they were like, how can we do that? So I knew that I was making a difference there. So I'm like, when you talk about influencer, like, who are you really influencing? Are you also influencing the industry that you're in? But I was able to connect with the actual like people from Indians. I was able to connect with Native Americans. I was able to connect with the Mexican Americans and the African Americans in that space. And it was just so interesting because the tourism board was like, wow, like we've never even spoke to them. And I was just like, well, have you tried? You know what I mean? I'm like, I want to show the Black owned restaurant that's smack dab in Billings, Montana, and nobody is even putting Billings, Montana on their radar. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's those type of stories, and then those type of situations where I could connect with the Black community. So yeah, those are my favorite places.
Montana sounds awesome. I always wanted to go to, because I love seeing like mountains and stuff. Like I've been to, since I travel a lot for softball, I've been to over like 28 states out of 50. I'm still in the rush. Like my brother 49. He didn't get to go to Alaska, but he was like truck driver. For me, I was traveling for softball, and then like the billion. That's always counted like how many countries I've been to is 27. So my mom's been to Belize. I never been to Central America yet, which we're trying to do after COVID-19 lifts up.
Right.
But like my next like content was gonna be South America because my friends are from Brazil and like all that. Like I'm already like, you know, like I just wanted to continue on. So that was like my next continent to pick up and explore.
Yeah.
But like definitely, and like I love doing like, you know, family trips. Like why not go to the West Coast? You know, I never not yet in the West Coast. So I have family everywhere over there. It's just like, why not? You know, especially being young. It's like definitely an experience and like a goal and stuff I want to do, because I want to see the mountains, I want to see the lake, you know what I mean, and just see, because I like peace and quiet too at the same time. So and like hiking too.
Montana will have you just in your, it would have you in your thoughts, but with such a big piece of serenity just all over you, because when you go to Montana and you get to go to like Yosemite, I'm sorry, Yellowstone, it's breathtaking. You're just like, oh my gosh, and just make you be like, thank you, universe, thank you, God, for such a beautiful place, right? And then you see the bison. I mean, there's so many places like that you can get to all throughout Montana, no matter if you're in the south, the north, the east, the west. Like all of Montana is very much so like that. So it is like the breathtaking landscapes, but it's also the people, like unmatched.
For sure. Now, our next question will be, what are your likes and dislikes of traveling?
I don't have many dislikes. Like I am a go with the flow type of person. So I like go with the flow type of travelers. I'm very low maintenance. So I struggle with high maintenance people, because I'm like, girl, just throw on your clothes and let's go. Or if you're going to be late, take a taxi because the driver is waiting and we out, you know. But yeah, I don't have many dislikes of travel. I've been blessed that I have not experienced a lot of discrimination when I'm traveling. Although people might stare because they're like, oh my gosh, a Black person in Latvia, you know what I mean? They're not racist. And I have been blessed to not like have to deal with that. The only dislikes also that I have is the way that people travel now due to social media. They're traveling to the places for the pictures instead of traveling to the place for the place. And I'm like, no, like there's so much more to Paris than the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre. Like go to the Black neighborhood, you know, like there's so many different endorsements. Like this, it's just so much like it's jaded almost right now because of social media. I'm like, y'all are missing the big point. Like go off the beaten path. But yeah, that's really it. And then, I mean, there's so many things to like and love about travel.
That's what I did in Hungary.
Yeah. I think probably the main thing I love about travel is just that you get exposed to so many different things that you would never know unless you visited a place. And it's that whole sense of discovery and uncovering something that you didn't know before. Now, granted, people there might have known, but it's something that you didn't know and that your community didn't know. So again, this is when influence comes in, because it's like, okay, if I go to Bimini, which is the closest Bahamian island to America, and nobody realized that they can get there and do a day trip from Miami just with their passport and get on either a 3-hour boat ride or a 30-minute seaplane ride and be in a different country, like, and then all of a sudden I see tons of people going to Bimini because I went. I'm like, okay, like that makes sense. So yeah, it's being able to just discover, or the rediscovery or the uncovering of the unknown to yourself. But yeah, travel, man, it makes my heart beat. It makes my heart beat.
Definitely. Um, when you visit every country, like you were saying a little bit, what kind of sightseeing do you usually do? Do you like go to museums, downtown, entertainment shows, hiking, or historical landmarks? Like me, I'm a big historical landmark person, but then I like seeing like the town.
Yeah,
I like getting with the people, you know what I mean? And see the culture. Because I do a little research and then I'm like, let's go to there later, like when I get to the hotel, so like right before. I'm sometimes
right.
like, I like to wing it some things.
I think it depends on what type of trip it is. So of course, if it's like a sponsored trip through a tourism board, like everything is like so packed out. But if it's just me on my own, or like a trip that I'm going on with friends that has nothing to do with work, I am just like a let's get lost and see what we find. So like there are certain things that I want to hit. Don't get me wrong, but like I am so amazed by the hidden jewels of places that I'm like, let's just walk around this neighborhood and see what we can find. And then you end up finding so many things. I went on a trip actually with Yolanda, and she just sent me pictures from it this morning, reminding me we went to northern Italy, and we were already in oh gosh, Trentino, but we ended up going further up north. So we wanted to go to the region where Prosecco was made, and we did something called agriturisme, which is where you go to an actual vineyard and you stay on the property, and you can go down to the tasting room. You can see how the wine was made, but like you're in this like country house and you're just blocked off from everything. And me and her were just talking about how relaxing that was for us, because like we could get up in the morning and just walk through the vineyards, or they had like a natural swimming pool, which is just like a random ass lake, like not in their backyard, but like up the hill, that like had fishes in it and probably tadpoles and everything else. But to us, that was so relaxing because it wasn't so curated. So it's things like that. Or when we were in Trentino, like there's tons of things that the tourism board wanted us to do, but one night we just walked and we ended up running into all of these pianos, because they were resalvaging pianos, and they just put them up in different places of the city so people can just play the piano. So it's stuff like that. It's like those stories that I went to. There was a man there playing like the Circle of Life on a piano, and he was killing it. And I was like, oh my God, like this is better than any monument, that I could go to. But then I'm very much like you, where I am a museum type of person, especially if it's art. Oh my gosh. I always love to go and see how things are interpreted from the people from that place this time, and then also see the influence, because I can always find a black face in a museum. Always. There's
Yeah.
always a painting of a black person. There's always like remnants of hip hop culture or something. So it's like, okay, you see how much the Western world has influenced everything else. So I love museums, definitely. And it wasn't until I studied abroad that I was like that, because I studied abroad for fashion, but part of the curriculum was us going to so many different museums. And like London has their famous museums, the Victoria and Albert, the Portrait Gallery, but there are so many smaller displays that I was so blown away by. And being a fashion student, you had to look at things like their clothes, or you had to look at things like the different type of details to see what period it was from, and then you can see how much it did influence clothes. So yeah, I'm definitely a museum type of person, but I'm also a hidden gem, let's just see what we find type of person.
Yeah. How did you usually like? It's basically going back to this question. Is like, how do you usually book your trips? But you said sometimes you get sponsored. sponsorship
Yeah.
clients and
But
everything.
if it's not through there, it's so funny. We were just talking about this yesterday. Like I'm a skyscanner.com person all
I
day
see.
long,
I was gonna
especially
ask, do you
if
use like Trivago, Expedia, or
yeah,
like travel
yeah.
agency? I don't think
Skyscanner,
people.
if I know that I'm like going to Europe or anywhere on that side, just because it's so good for deals on that side. Um, I I I know travel patterns, so I know when prices are gonna drop, and I know like off season. So like once I have my mind fixed on a place, I'm like, okay, let me go look up the off season. Like when can I go for the low when everybody's not gonna be there? Because I don't mind the cold. So
Mhm.
I'm just like, yeah, like I don't care if I go to this place while it's cold. Like yes, it'd be beautiful while it's sunny, but it's also beautiful while it's cold. And this is when you get even more of the culture regardless, because you're not fighting to look at things or to stand in line for things, and you still get a great experience. So I often do a lot of off-season traveling. But yeah, I think I read so many magazines, and I just when I like a place, I just tear it out of the magazine, and then I just have the list of places that I want to go. But yeah, I do a lot of traveling on my own also, and a lot of it is based off of stories that I read, little tidbits from other influencers where I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I saw you went to Austria, I'd be like, ooh, yes, this is a place that I need to go and visit. But yeah, or I'm really into singing and dancing. So when I find a different style of singing or a different type of dance, I'll look it up and see like, okay, what countries actually like has this in there and has like a history behind it. And that's sometimes how I'll like choose travel as well. Or unknown Black communities. If there's a place, I'm there. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like all these Black people here, like I'm going to see them right now. So yeah.
Yeah. And that goes back when you were talking about seasons. My other question would have been like, do you have a season that you prefer traveling more in? Like, Alonda told me about like she has a shoulder season, like when she likes to go, like she likes to go from June to September and stay for like the holidays back in London and then go back out. And so like to me, I like the
Yeah.
fall season because and, like especially if you're traveling in America, like you want to go to places, make sure there's not a lot of kids around that time. They usually be in school around that time. So like it's more like
Right.
adult trip.
Yeah, I don't actually because I'm like, for one, it's always hot somewhere. So I'm like, just give me to the heat, give me to the heat. Um, yeah, February is always a good time for me to travel because it's my birthday month. So I'm just like, yeah, just take me wherever. Um, but I definitely travel a lot during the summer. I feel like everybody does just because they know the weather is better. But yeah, no, I don't really have a preference. And yeah, no, I don't really have a preference. Every October, I'll do a sister trip with my sister. And for the most part, we do go to warmer places. But yeah, I don't have a preference.
Okay. And when you travel, what do you usually pack with you? Or like what is your go-to like for like camera equipment, let's say?
Oof. Yeah, I'm so bad with this. I always have to make sure, of course, I have my adapters because, Lord, I used to
That's
travel and be
true.
like, I forgot my adapters, but like my adapters stay in my regular purse because I'm like, listen, I don't know where I'm gonna be when I'm gonna be, but I'm always gonna be prepared.
I always pop
I
one out.
try to bring like some type of tripod, and I travel with my camera. I have like a little Canon, but really that's it. I always bring my waterproof GoPro, but that's it. Like I'm not like super big on equipment, even though I used to be, but now I'm like, listen, I don't want to travel with all this heavy stuff. Like, no, I'm just like, I'm like, there's a way to capture, and I'm just more, I'm very much so well thought out about it. Like, I'll maybe storyboard, like, okay, I know I want to get a picture here or tell a story here, so I know I'll need this for that. But yeah, other than that, no, I don't go super hard anymore. It's too much stuff to carry. And you don't even end up using all of it. And I'm like, listen, I just paid for this bag that I ain't even have to use. Like, So
Totally agree. Um, and when you use like when you work on your media software to do stuff, do you usually like what do you use to create sometimes videos or some creative content when you post stuff on your social media? Do you use like
yeah. So the game has changed with the entrance of so many apps on your phone where you can do things directly. I was always a Photoshop person and an After Effects person before like Canva came out, and before things like InShot or Over. And so now I just kind of mix it all up. I'll create something in Photoshop and then drop it into Canva and then send it to my phone and add some stuff in InShot. And now with TikTok, I mean, oh my gosh, like I wasn't into the platform at all. I think I literally just became a believer in the past 2 weeks because I sat down, I actually took webinars about it, but I'm like, this is so many things in one that we would have to go to four different applications or four different actual things on our computers to use, and we can do it all in TikTok now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To a point where it's effortless, to the point where you don't have to think about it, and it's allowing people to tell their story so much better. But the Adobe Suite, I am a complete believer in that. I have always been, and as their products grow, I think so do I as I learn. But Canva has also been a saving grace because I didn't have to sit and create for so much. Like they already have all the templates in there, and I know how to put things together beautifully. So I didn't have to sit there and create them all myself in Photoshop, in Illustrator, in InDesign like I used to have to do. So yeah, but my main go-tos are Photoshop, Lightroom, InShot, and Over. So yeah, because I like shit flying around the corners. I like the voiceovers. I like the stickers. You know, I like the sound effects. So yeah, used to take me hours to do that in Photoshop, and now I could do it all in 30 minutes if I wanted to. So
I said sometimes, like, I look at your Instagram. I said sometimes they're breathtaking. Like, I can notice, like, I love that shot what you took. And
oh, thank you.
you're welcome. And stuff like that's why I was like this. And like when I read everyone else's pictures, like, and I look at my pictures when I go to places, and they're like, all right, let me get some shot in angles, because like I studied, like, I had 2 classes in my lifetime with digital, like Photoshop, and I took one in high school and I took one in college. I still never brought the Adobe, like at my home computer.
Right.
We have that. Like I'm not really a pro, but I'm pro always with media and editing. That was always my specialties. So like when I do like looking for
Right.
jobs, it's like, do you have Photoshop graphic design? I was like, I use Canva because the most internships I did, they worked on Canva. They were like shaking their head. They don't use graphic designs really. They just tell people
Yeah.
to do. I was like, oh
It
my god.
saves so much time now. It was like, oh my gosh, like, and now that they came out with all like the actual GIFs and things that move and MP4s, it was like, what? I can just, I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, like this saves so much time.
Yeah.
So,
We actually have 2 more questions left. Pretty much we did talk about being a black traveler, if you ever sometimes face hardship of traveling with the locals, but since you answered that question earlier, we don't really have to answer that question anymore. So we get to the last one, which is basically like on COVID-19. The big question is, thinking about
yeah.
travel, are you still thinking about traveling right after, when it like, let me rephrase this. When COVID-19 ends and everyone can officially go back to normal, the activities, do you think, are you going to jump so quick to go back to traveling, or are you going to take like a few months of like slowing it down and then go back to your normal like travel routine?
Right. Although my answer might change as of right now, I'm like, nope, I'm on the first flight out of here. I'm like, I don't care where the flight is going. But I think one thing people are not realizing is that um, flights are 90% down right now.
Yeah,
Meaning that even if I wanted to get on a plane and go to Germany, my airline might not be flying there yet. And so it's one of those things like, how do you even know where we're going to be able to go? Are these countries that I want to go to even going to allow Americans in because of how we handled the situation here?
yeah,
For us, so like yesterday was Jamaica Carnival, and of course we were supposed to be there, and they have postponed Jamaica Carnival until October, but we're like, is that even going to be realistic? Are they still going to want that many people together in one place and time? And like we're all like, well, if we can go, we're gonna go, but we're like, are they gonna even really let that happen, you know? But no, as soon as it lifts, I'm ready to go. I don't live in fear of coronavirus and COVID-19, and I'm not saying that other people do, but it doesn't affect me to the point where I'm saying no, I'm not going to travel. It affects me to the point where I say, okay, am I going to have a face mask? Am I going to have my facial wipes? Am I going to have my antiseptic? Am I going to have my hand sanitizer? Am I going to have my seat cover? You know what I mean? Am I going to be more cognizant of germs and cleanliness? Absolutely. But I don't think it's going to stop me, because I'm already like, as soon as I can go, first place I'm going is London, like, period. And everybody in London knows. They're like, we know you come in here, you know, and like normally I would stay at Yolanda's house, but I'm like, I don't even want to do that to them, because I don't want them to worry, like, what is she bringing from America? You know what I mean? But I also think it's going to have an interesting effect on Airbnbs or shared home
Like
space or
hospitals,
whatever
probably.
versus hotels, because now I'm going to be more, yeah, like now I would rather stay in a hotel, because in my head I think it's a lot more clean than an Airbnb. I don't know who cleans your Airbnb, but I know you have staff, and I know you guys have the right products to clean out this room. So it's things like that that are going to be really, really interesting to see.
For sure. Um, and that's like I'm like that person. Like I'm about to graduate in 2 more weeks from college. I'm gonna get my 2 degrees, and like, what's next for me after this? You know what I mean? And I told my parents I want, like, I already got my last year of college softball, canceled. I had a lot of things taken away, even my graduation being canceled. Like, it's going to be virtual
Right.
to a point. Like, to me, it's just giving me my diploma at this point, and I've been like applying jobs left to right. So now it's just like I just need a vacation after this one. When this was low, I'm going on vacation. Because, America
Yeah.
picked me up. I got my stimulus check. It was funny how I got it. It was hilarious. But like, I'm ready to go as a college student.
How
Like,
did you do it?
I file my taxes independently. I don't depend on
Ah,
my parents. I've been doing that since I was 18. Like, I've been working like, like 15 and everything. But like, I became a official adult at 18, and then like doing my own medical insurance and all of that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I've worked my ass off, even like throughout to go to Europe. Like a lot of people even study abroad. Like, not a lot of student athletes study at my school abroad. And then I chose that, and then like I took a break from
gotcha.
away from softball for a little bit, and then came back, fought back. I was like a big starter and everything. Like, I told people I wanted to create a story. You know what I mean? So I have a story from a long life in the past.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, today, like right now, like I worked in industries and PR, like, and I'm still trying to figure, because I was supposed to work in sports after graduation with the Knicks, but
Yeah.
they even call me like right now because of the situation. Like, we're not probably gonna have a spot for you because when we get back up, because even like football too with the Jets, I'm like, oh well, this sucks. Because now I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out my life, like, what I mean, like, that's why I was going to launch my own website, like a little portfolio, what I do, because I do broadcasting, I do this, I do that, and PR stuff. So why not? And that's when I thought middle of last week, I'm like, I want to interview travelers and get their perspective, because this is for my project overall. And I'm like, this is an idea I was creating. You know what I mean? I felt like it was a genius idea, which is happening. You know what I mean? And I don't know what I have in 6 months, but I'm like a hustler. I apply to jobs 50 times a day, and it's just, like, I don't know. But it sucks what economy is. Like, I thought of going back to grad school, but you know what I mean? I really don't want to go back, but you know, I don't know. Because a lot of people say you should go back because the economy right now is going to be down for a while. Like, yeah, that's smart because you save yourself from the hardships.
Well, you would still get your year back, right? You would get your year back for softball?
Yeah, I do have an extra eligibility year, which I can go
Yeah.
to any school and play. But honestly, I really wanted to go through like stress again and like because I mean, like, when I came back, I'm like the oldest millennial. I feel like 2020, even though they said the 1998 kids are Gen Z, now we're still millennial because we don't act the same in college. Like, the freshmen, we're not the same people. We all like shakes. All my friends are all
Right.
millennials, and then they're all like 25, 26, and then 23 and 22. And I just turned 22 2 days ago. So like now it's just like, nah, I'm a
Oh,
millennial,
that's
100%.
amazing.
Thank you. I was like, I'm a millennial. Period.
Right.
I can't.